Good evening and welcome to Broadcasting Buffalo. I'm your host, Erica Brayson, along with my co-host tonight, Brian Meyer.
And tonight we're taking a look at how restaurants and bars survived the pandemic. Elijah Robinson has more.
COVID-19 has highlighted the strengths of our Buffalo community. One aspect of our Buffalo community that has survived and thrived has been the food industry. When COVID-19 hit, restaurants in New York State were forced to close and were only able to serve takeout.
It was very tough to get the proper paper supplies, for packaging and all that stuff.
In the summer, when cases went down, restaurants were able to reopen. But when November hit, cases spiked and restaurants were ordered to close down again. Many restaurant owners sought out government grants to stay afloat.
We applied for the PPP grant and we got that in April, and we opened a week later on May 1st for takeout only.
The Eagle House in Williamsville is one of the oldest restaurants in Western New York. Despite government grants, they had to reach out to Barstool Sports for help just to stay afloat.
We ended up using a lot of money more quickly than we needed to because they said you had to use it in 8 weeks. In the 7th week of trying to use up all this money we were given to keep people employed.
DA Taste is one business that actually opened during the pandemic and managed to thrive.
Honestly, we started a business during the pandemic because we love food. We didn't have our jobs due to it being shut down from COVID. We like feeding people, and it was just, we needed to do it.
It was a tough road ahead, and there were signs of other restaurants closing during the pandemic. But with the help of friends, owners Azriel and Dominic pushed through.
At first, we had doubt that it would work, and then we seen it as an opportunity and took that as a grain of salt and decided that, if other places are shut down, where are people eating? We need to eat, we're hungry. So honestly, we did it through social media and asked our friends who's hungry, let's go.
Some other challenges included supply and staffing shortages that have plagued restaurants throughout the pandemic. Many owners are hopeful things are finally going back to normal.
So this is the first summer 2022, that's really going to be full send, full go, with no max, no restrictions as well. So we're really looking forward to this summer.
As COVID-19 loses its grip on our city, restaurants and other businesses continue to survive and thrive better than they've ever done before. For Broadcasting Buffalo, I'm Elijah Robinson.
Well, thank you, Elijah. When we come back, we'll talk much more about challenges restaurants faced during the pandemic and continue to face in its aftermath.
We'll also be joined by 2 local restaurant insiders to share their experiences. We'll be right back after this.
This is a college that inspires. Here you'll be engaged, strive for excellence, and prepare for a career. Visit our amazing Elmwood Village campus and apply today. You'll achieve your edge here. This place is Buffalo State College.
Hello, Buffalo. I'm Ed Asner. You may remember me as television's no-nonsense news director Lou Grant. And if you think about it, journalists provide us with our first draft of history. Right here in Buffalo, more than 50 years of TV news coverage is being brought back to life. Local stations are working with the Buffalo Broadcasters Association to bring back the stories that helped define the Niagara frontier.
The Pheasant Lane neighborhood, where drifts reach to the rooftops.
It's called the Archive Project, and I support it with all my heart. So should you.
Welcome back to Broadcasting Buffalo. I'm Erica Brayson here with my co-host Brian Meyer. And tonight, restaurant owner Dave Schutte and sales manager Pete Zlotkowski, also known as Pierogi Pete, are here to talk about their experiences during the pandemic with the restaurants.
Now, Dave, you have a lot of experience here in Western New York. You own Oliver's, you own Creekview. You opened a very interesting business, Brightsmith Brewing, right kind of as the pandemic was hitting. Talk about some of your experiences in this world of COVID.
Sure, it's been a wild ride, a roller coaster indeed, especially with Brightsmith Brewing, because we opened February 1st and shut down March 16th. Remember that day very, very vividly. And the hardest challenge for us certainly was our employees today and back then. To have to tell them that they no longer had a job was very difficult. So we pivoted to takeout and kept our core staff, and we were very fortunate, not knowing what the future looked like, but had some great people dedicated to all the restaurants, and we pivoted and we came out of it okay.
Yeah, we want to hear more about the types of things that you went through, but Pete, give us a quick overview of your involvement and how you're known as Pierogi Pete.
Sure, thanks for having me here tonight. I work for Krushiki Bakery, Simply Pierogi in Stolat, which is the old Sears of Eastern Hills Mall. My ownership group of Anya and Andrew and Peter Coyle brought me on last March 15th, which was a year ago. We'd already been through the pandemic. They had opened this new facility. They had closed down. They pivoted to takeout, like Dave said, as well, and brought me on as a sales representative to do their sales locally and nationally for their pierogies and their baked goods. And then Anya threw a costume on me one day to look like a pierogi, and it has really been a lot of fun with that.
So talk a little bit, how did you help them work through this hard time? What was your role in that?
So it was in a world that we are struggling to get workers. I've been in the restaurant industry. Dave was one of my first managers ever when I was 16 or 17 years old at Babalu's down in Allentown. I've been in the restaurant industry with my uncle, and I can do front of the house, back of the house, serving, bartending, functions, sales, whatever it takes to get the job done nowadays. And Anya and Andrew and Pete have all quickly realized that. So wherever I'm needed, they plug me in. But my main job, my day job, is sales to take their company to a more national level outside of Buffalo.
Now, Dave, we were talking offset. You know, when we think of restaurants and how the pandemic impacted, we often think of people sitting at the tables and so forth, but there's a big sort of behind the scenes industry in catering that was affected as much and in some cases more, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Oliver's Catering is a big arm of Oliver's Restaurant Group, and certainly all the corporate events, the weddings we had to move or cancel from 2020 into the future years was certainly a challenge. They're starting to come back now, which is great, but that was probably our biggest segment that really took a hit.
Mm-hmm. There had to have been a time when you wondered what the future would be. Talk about some of those hardest moments for you as a restaurant owner of several very popular restaurants and really wondering, you know, are we going to make it through this?
Yeah, that was probably the most difficult time, that March 16th to April. We had no idea how we were going to pay for everything. I'd have to go back to the banks. But I was committed to keeping my core team on. My chef and partner, Ross Warhol, and his group, he rallied the troops, and but we had no idea if we were going to come out of it at all. But certainly a challenge at the time.
And Peter, you know, we're here taping this now in early spring. A lot has come back to, quote, the new normal. What about staffing issues? What about that issue, the whole labor force challenge?
Brian, that's a great question, and I'm sure Dave can attest to it too. It's a very ebb and flow type of thing for workers nowadays. You can put out as many ads as you want. You can raise the pay to heights that have never before been seen. I mean, I remember when I started, it was $2.90 to be a bartender. Now we're offering $13, $15, $18 an hour, and it still just doesn't seem like people are going to want that. They want something better, they want something bigger. I don't know if it's the change in parenting in schools saying, you really don't need to go do food service, go do something else. Food service is still a vital industry. Between catering, takeouts, sit down, bars, restaurants, it's a very vital industry that's necessary for Western New York and beyond. And you just keep plugging away and hope you find someone to fill in those holes.
Yeah. I mean, the customers are still there, and dining, especially Buffalo is a big foodie town.
Yeah.
You know, and people were dying to get back out and feel normal again. Did you see a big difference between when you were required to have them wear masks, you know, in and out of the restaurant, to when that got lifted? You know, was there a big jump in customers at that point, or did that not really matter? People were coming anyway.
It was definitely 50% were coming back out the first year in 2020 when we reopened in June. But there was definitely a fall off of business until the mask got lifted and everyone's vaccinated, which is, you know, this past year. And but now they're out in droves. They can't wait to go back out with their friends and people they haven't seen in a long time. So it's finally back. But it was certainly a challenge those first 2 years.
Absolutely.
Pete, how about your operations?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. People were still coming out. You know, you had your rebels here and there that just didn't want to wear the masks, and as strongly and nicely as you can possibly tell people to please adhere to them, you just really had to still kill them with kindness, customer service. But like Dave said, now that masks mandates have been completely lifted, people are coming out in droves. I was just at Brightsmith the other day for brunch, which was fantastic. Just looking to support local, and the mask thing definitely helps, but people were going to do what they want anyways. It's like Erica said, it's a very big foodie town. They want to get out.
Now, some of the issues that are facing restaurants now are beyond COVID, maybe affected a little bit by it. But I mean, we're looking, for example, at inflation, supply chain issues, et cetera. Talk about that macroeconomic issue, if you will, Dave.
Yeah, from being out of gloves and certain takeout items back in 2020, now it's just had a ripple effect from beef pricing, even the alcohol. They couldn't get glass for some of the tequilas we're still waiting for. So supply chain issues, availability, and also really pricing has gone through the roof. I've never seen it higher, and we all see it with the gas pricing, which also drives our quality and price of products. So
Right.
it's a challenge.
So you probably had to increase prices for customers too, but I don't know. Do you think that there's a limit there with, you know, I mean, people, yeah, sometimes it's like we're willing to do anything. We just want to get out and get back to our lives. You know, I suppose the forecast for that is really unknown, and, you know, when all of those things will start leveling out for you.
Yeah, we're certainly hoping that it's going to level out soon, because we could not pass on all of those costs to the guest. Otherwise, we'd have $100 steaks and $50 pastas. So we did pass on a few of those costs. We're trying to raise the price a little bit, but not to the extent we need to get back to normal cost of goods. So,
For sure, for sure.
We've got so much more to talk about. When we do come back, I want to talk a little bit about this, you know, the quote Buffalo revival, the Western New York resurgence, and how that may be playing into your plans and so forth. I know you did some renovations not too long ago on that. So we've got some other issues that we do want to talk about when we return.
Absolutely. So again, we'll talk more with Pete and Dave right after this.
We'll be back.
Believe, inspire, achieve. These three simple words capture the progression of each student's journey at the college.
Believe. Education works best when powered by confidence and a positive attitude. When students believe in themselves, great things can happen.
Inspire. Active learning among a peer group of engaged and community-minded leaders inspires great thinking and doing.
Achieve. On a very practical level, each student finds the support and resources at Buffalo State to achieve their goals. Achievements continue on through our more than 100,000 alumni throughout the world.
No matter the occasion, Premier Gourmet is here for you. Featuring Buffalo's best craft beer selection, grocery store items, coffee, and gifts. Find locally made Buffalo products and everything you need for your home bar. Visit PremierGourmet.com.
Experience Buffalo and Erie County's unique stories with the new Buffalo History Museum podcast. Connect with Western New York's history as you listen to detailed narratives about heritage, architecture, business, innovation, and significant events and people throughout time. The podcast takes inspiration from the museum's collection and beyond, from experts on staff and featured guests. From the 1918 influenza to F. Scott Fitzgerald, experience the stories that make up our region. The Buffalo History Museum podcast. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Broadcasting Buffalo. I'm Brian Meyer, along with my co-host, Erica Brayson.
And we're joined tonight by restaurant owner Dave Schutte and sales manager Pete Zlotkowski. Now, Pete, I'm going to move over to you. We were just talking in the last segment about, yes, people are coming back. It appears somewhat normal. The restrictions have been lifted. However, is it really back to normal for restaurants? I think the answer to that is no, because you've had to make a lot of changes. You've had to pivot. Talk about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes still going on in the industry. You have to adapt and survive day to day. It is a day-to-day survival for all of restaurants and bars. You go anywhere, and I travel around the country. You go anywhere, you see that restaurants are shortening their hours. Usually Wednesday through Saturday is their open time. You want more outdoor dining. Takeout's a big thing. Staffing, while we said there's challenges before, you can find a bartender at a bar that will be cooking, that will be serving, that will be doing the bartending. So that's one person doing three persons' jobs because you're so short-staffed. While we're getting back to normal, I don't ever think that it's going to be, it's a relative term. I don't know if it's going to come back to the way it was pre-pandemic.
Day to day.
Yeah, day to day.
Now, Dave, during the pandemic, Oliver's was doing some remodeling. Was that by design? Was that by plan? Or did you just take advantage of a good time to do stuff?
Well, during COVID, we had a lot since I took
Yeah, right? Exactly.
You're walking around an empty restaurant, you go, I could change that, change that. So it's been in the works. I've owned it for 9 years now, since I took over for Henry Garino, and he did a fabulous job for 30 years. So I needed to make a change to the decor and the feel and the energy in the room, which we were fortunate enough to do last year. So definitely made some changes. It was fun.
Yeah, and it's nerve-wracking because, like we were just saying, you've had to make changes. You made investments, which are always great, but one day to the next, you don't know if things are going to be the same, if they're going to continue to get better or not. And how do you forecast that as a business owner?
Sure, Erica, I always look at the silver linings and everything. That's just my nature. And for this, what we learned was how important our employees are and their quality of life. And I think everyone kind of did a reset in their own minds, whether you're in our industry or not. And it was my job, duty to my staff to give them a better quality of life. So for instance, we changed our hours. No longer open 7 days a week at Creekview, which I was for 26 years. So we closed on Sundays, and it gives a better quality of life for the staff. They always know they have a day off. And at Oliver's too, we're closed Sundays and Mondays. So, and we closed Christmas Day. Historically, for 85 years, Oliver's has been open on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, no more.
Flexibility is the key in all businesses, actually. Peter, we did a show on Buffalo's so-called revival just within the last several weeks. What do you look at when you see, Western New York through your prism? Are you, optimistic as it relates to being in the restaurant industry?
I am. One of the biggest reasons is someone that you see in the newspaper every single day, Doug Jamel, is doing great things for Buffalo with the Statler, with Hotel Henry that he's taken over, the Hyatt. He's a good person for Buffalo. He wants to invest in it. Dave himself, opening Creekview, taking over Oliver's. I've been a big fan of Dave's for years. Mark Hutchinson, who owns Hutch's, expanded his restaurant business. There's good things happening. It's going to take some time. It's not going to happen overnight like it used to. Slap some paint on the wall, throw some chairs down, and you have yourself a party. You have to strategically think. You have to be a forward thinker, which all the people that I just mentioned are. Even my owner, who is putting in some new routes down in Lancaster with some opportunities that she's going to do coming in the near future. It's reviving. It's just going to take some time.
Just a few seconds, Dave. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better person to mention besides Douglas Jamel and what he's done with Buffalo in particular, and bringing both workers and people with tech jobs and things like that downtown. That's what we need more of. So certainly business leaders like Douglas is awesome for Buffalo.
Yeah, we have to think of the big picture here. You know, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work unless all the parts and pieces are working together at the end of the day. Well, we're going to have much more with these two in just a few minutes with some final thoughts. We'll be back in a bit.
No matter who you are or where you're from, you are welcome here.
Tú eres bienvenido. مرحبا. أهلا وسهلا.
You are welcome here.
You are welcome.
You are welcome here.
No matter the occasion, the Premier Group is here for you. Take advantage of our easy online ordering and curbside pickup, or shop the finest selection of unique wines, spirits, and gifts at any of our 3 independently owned Western New York locations.
Your life has taught you a lot. Now your experience can help change a child's life. Read to Succeed and AARP Experience Corps are looking for local volunteers, 50 and older, to help children in Buffalo City schools learn to read. You'll receive training to help you be a great tutor. You have what it takes to change a young person's life. The experience may even change your own. Volunteer by going to readtosucceedbuffalo.org.
And we're back on Broadcasting Buffalo with some final thoughts from our guests.
You know, we were talking offset. A lot of people think that we may be over-restauranted in Western New York. There are so many food joints, you know, they're opening all the time and so forth. Give us your perspectives as insiders in this industry.
Well, Brian, I certainly hope we're not over-restauranted yet, because we're opening a new restaurant in Hamburg. My chef and partner, Ross Warhol, and I doing a farm-to-table restaurant called Perennial. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully by the end of next year. We're working on it now. So I think, you know, there's always room for quality restaurants, right? So people love to dine. It's part of entertainment in their lives. It's what they like to do on the weekends. So I certainly hope we're not over-restauranted.
Peter?
I'm going to say vehemently, no, we're not over-restaurated at all. Buffalo's a foodie town.
I agree.
There's a reason why we don't like our chain restaurants or the chain restaurants that are out there. We go and support places like Dave's, like my company's at Stolat, you know, Glen Park Tavern on Main Street, downtown, Hombre y Lobo, the new taco place, which is a fantastic place right in a little building next to an exercise facility. Buffalo wants to keep it local and support local, so I would say definitely never ever over-restauranted at all.
Yeah, people, they want variety, and it's great to hear, Dave, that you're continuing to progress and think about expanding, opening new restaurants. However, you did suffer the ultimate consequence during COVID because one of your restaurants was forced to close down. Sear, a steakhouse in downtown Buffalo.
Yeah, that was a sad one for us, for sure. It was our baby. Had been open 4 years, a lot of energy downtown. COVID hit, and the rest is history. So unfortunately, we had to make a business decision. But on a good note, we were fortunate to move a lot of those employees within my company, as well as our restaurant Marcato down at Kleinhans Music Hall, which does dinner before all the Kleinhans BPO concerts. So we moved a lot of staff around. So
any plans to reopen Sear?
Not yet, but stay tuned.
Okay.
It's interesting because COVID has affected so many businesses, maybe all industries in one way or another. Erica, you are a business owner. Tell us about your experiences with the pandemic.
Spotlight on me, yeah. Well, I'm in the fitness business. I used to be in the broadcasting business, but opened up my own fitness studio almost 5 years ago. It's called Rebel Ride. It's a boutique fitness studio out in East Amherst. We're primarily indoor cycling, and I don't think we're as lucky as the restaurants. My feeling is in fitness, there's a lot more caution involved. We had to go through the same restrictions we had to exercise with masks. We had to go through we were closed, same deal as you guys. But the comfort level to come back and work out in groups, being close together. You know, that has been very slow for people to be comfortable with again. And we are seeing growth, resurgence, but it's taking a lot longer than I would like it to. I'll tell you that much. And people don't mess around with that. They want to be comfortable, and but believe me, they want to come back. There's no question about that. People were tired of working out at home. You know, we had to do a whole shift to virtual workouts, and worked for the time, but as soon as they could come back, you know, it's just been a slow progression.
Well, you know, it's interesting as we're talking about the whole issue of, you know, exercise, nutrition, et cetera. Are you seeing more diners who are interested in that angle, that healthy food angle?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of people cooked at home for a long time and probably cooked healthy because it was paramount that during the COVID is take care of yourself. And we have certainly seen vegetarians and dietary restrictions, things like that come up. So we've played our menus off to make sure we accommodate for those guests.
You know, as a traveling salesman for my company, I can tell you I'm going to a lot of colleges and universities around the country right now, and they're telling us that vegans are ruling the world. And they want cleaner products, they want healthy products. So yes, I would say that diet and fitness are going to go hand in hand with one another. And as someone who does Rebel Ride, I have been to that studio. Erica pivoted just like everybody else and did those virtual online things. It did the spacing between the cycling studio, so you were 6 feet apart from one another. So she will deflect and tell you that it's hard, and I'm sure it is as a business owner, but she also did it without flaw and as only a badass boss can do.
Well, thank you for the plug. I appreciate that. It's been great chatting with you guys. I think we all feel this. It's great that we're sitting here talking about this on the positive side.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
And, you know, we certainly don't want to go back to the other side, do we?
Never.
Absolutely not.
All righty. Well, again, thanks so much for joining us. If you'd like to hear or learn more information, just go to our website, broadcastingbuffalo.com.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you have a great night.